In February 2023, voters in the most populous black nation on earth will be heading to the polls, vying to replace the outgoing president, Muhammadu Buhari, are the following candidates, and they include a former governor of Lagos State, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, a former vice president of Nigeria, Atiku Abubakar. We also have a former governor of Kano State, Rabiu Kwankwanso, as well as a former major and intelligence officer, Hamza Al-Mustafa. And then there's the former governor of Anambra State, Peter Obi. Today, we're talking to him. I'm Tolulope, Adeleru, Balogun.
And this is NC Exclusive on New Central Television. I am Gbenga, Aborowa.
Thank you so much, Mr. Obi, for joining us. Now, the next president of Nigeria is entering at a time of high insecurity, high unemployment, slow growth, rising debt costs, and a number of issues. We also have a ballooning fuel subsidy figure. So people would probably ask, why run into what looks like a burning building rather than running away from it?
Well, for me, it's about, of course, people have to handle that situation. People have to stop that fire from escalating. Because if you don't stop it from a particular building, it might go on to other areas and everything. It is difficult, but it's not impossible. There's so many countries that have gone through what we've gone through now, that have passed through it, and we're able to come out of it in a careful, organized approach. And that is what is to take the issues one after the other and say, how do we deal with it? We have insecurity. We have issue of rising debt, like you said. Not even rising debt, we have a near collapse situation in terms of economy and everything. But it has to be handled.
So I think it's now time for us to get into the how it needs to be handled. Gbenga.
So we're at a very perilous time, like my colleague Tolu just said. And it's when you look at all indices of human development in the economy, we're ranking very badly. So how do you, and investors won't come into a country where you have high security incidents. How do we, what comes first, the economy or the security, and how do we handle this?
It's a combination of both. You can't tackle one and leave the other. Because in tackling both simultaneously, especially the economy, you reduce the criminality. Don't forget that the criminality worsened because of the collapse of the economy. So you have 100 million people living in poverty. You have high unemployment, the highest, I would say, in the world. It might not be highest in percentage, but highest in number. So the more you pull people out of poverty, the more you reduce the criminality. So as you're doing this, at the same time, you are engaging, strengthening your security architecture to be able to tackle the criminal aspect of it.
But there's also the transnational security threat. If you look at the West Africa sub-region, Burkina Faso is now the center of terrorism in the Sahel. Nigeria is part of the multinational joint task force. There's also the G5 Sahel. Is it time that we seek outside help? And what sort of help would we need when it comes to dealing with our security issues?
For me, yes. First is to deal with it, strengthen the internal, reorganize and strengthen the internal security architecture. Strengthen and deal with the economy to have a robust economy. Like I said, if you have this, then of course you're going to work and seek support whoever you can get to deal with it. But you have to start with internal position, making sure it is robust enough to be able to engage. Even the outside help you're going to bring in.
So I want to follow up on that because I hear strengthen the internal architecture, but the how is the conversation now. Many Nigerians are tired of hearing Politicians say, I will. Now it's a conversation of how will you? So the issue of state police comes up. The issue of funding comes up as well.
What I've always said people is that when it comes to issue of listening to politicians, it comes to issue of trust. There's people contesting, who among these do we trust in what he's saying? Nobody. I can give you to the minutest detail what I'm going to do with the issue of security. I've said it will be decisive and it will be immediate.
How?
That is where I will not tell you. If you're talking about issue of state police or issue of this, for me, there's no reason why we shouldn't even have local government police. There's nothing wrong in state police. Because for me, every state should be able to protect itself. Period. There's nothing wrong in that. It will not stop us from settling the national police. It will not. Whatever we can do to secure the country, I'll do it.
Whatever you can do to secure the country,
I'll do it. It is not negotiable because it is imperative in your trying to attract investment. There's critical areas to attract investment. There's intangible assets of growing your GDP, security, rule of law. All these have to be in place. It's not negotiable at all. Whatever it takes to ensure that this too is there, that's it.
Now, looking at the economy, the president of Nigeria and the constitution gives the executive a lot of power. The president is seen as the one that controls the country and the direction in which it moves. Looking at the 36 states of Nigeria, there are quite a number of states that are not economically viable and they don't bring much to the table. If you emerge president of Nigeria, you'll be president without many states contributing.
There's more. So recent reports, I think about a month and a half ago, listed the fact that at least 30-something states in Nigeria received no FDI in the first quarter of the year.
Let me tell you, every state in Nigeria is viable. Nigeria is not a productive country.
How do you get them to untap that?
That's why I said we're going to move them from consumption to production. That's why I wanted you to call the states. You said Borno State. Borno State sits on 70.9 square kilometers of land. Land. Fertile. That can be used for anything. Even the Sambisa forest is about 60,000 square kilometers of land. And you say, they're poor. They're poor because we choose to make our states unproductive. Netherlands is 33,000 square kilometers of land minus water. Total food export, including winter last year, is $120 billion. Agriculture. So if Borno State decides to do 1% of what the land is $1.2 billion. At 600 is 720 billion naira, which is 5 times the budget of Borno State. It's just that we choose to make it unproductive. If they are productive, Borno State is 3 times the size of Israel. Israel is 22-point-something square kilometers of land. Borno State is 70.9 thousand square kilometers. And I can go state after state like that for you. If you want to, it's because we have an unproductive thing where we have not decided to engage. We've been living this life of for handouts and everything and everybody. The greatest asset of a country is land, human being, the human infrastructure delivers 4 times what fiscal infrastructure can contribute. Nigeria is a huge country of 200 million people that are not productive. That's why we have high unemployment. That's why we have this and this and this. And that is what we're going to turn around.
Well, you will be working within the framework of the 1999 Constitution and its exigencies, its exclusive and non-exclusive list and all of that. How would you carry along governors and people that are not pulling their weight?
The Constitution might have its own problem. But that Constitution is not what is keeping us where we are today. It is bad leadership. Notwithstanding the Constitution, you can drag everybody along. You can drag everybody yelling and crying and say, listen, we're going to get this. We can still make the country productive. You don't necessarily need to. Anybody will tell you, how you go, why do we have economic council? Economic council in the Constitution says the state and the federal government will meet once a month to decide the economic future of the place. And the biggest assets of the country, I said, when I mentioned Burundi, is the vast uncultivated land we have in the north. With the human being that is there. We're just sharing the little money that is coming from diminishing asset called oil. Oil is a diminishing asset.
It's finite.
Huh?
It's finite.
So, how much do we generate from oil annually? Because I know I used some language, somebody said, no, it was wrong. I said we were below 30. And somebody said well, it was wrong, that it was 47. I said, no, check it with the real rates, because they used to official rate. For me, the official rate is the one that is available for everybody.
I think this is a good place to talk about the fuel subsidy, because we're talking oil now. And the projection is that by 2023, we're going to be paying just under 7 trillion naira for fuel subsidy. It's a popular subsidy, but it's no longer sustainable. And many have said we never should have started it in the first place. If you were to become president, how would you deal with the subsidy issue?
Well, first and foremost, subsidy for me is a scam. I want you to put it in. For me, it's one of those things that happens in Nigeria when they say oil stealing, all these things. All these is something that is organized criminality that people are participating. So for me, do you know how much fuel we're paying subsidy on?
Consumption figures have always been...
Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Nobody knows actually. The whole thing is rather a secret. Who is importing the fuel? Who are we paying? What are we doing? These things have to be in the open. That's first. First is that people say, will you remove it? You know, you have to show evidence of why the need to remove it. What are we replacing with the removal? The problem you have is that the government have been operating in a situation where nobody can trust. There's no trust between the Nigerian populace and the government. So if you build trust, and people can see that things you're doing is transparent, you can be able to negotiate whether we can pay this level of subsidy and be able to use these assets, which we're not going to pay, to do this, to invest in this, to invest in this. But we cannot have a situation where in a year, subsidy takes more than what we put in the 3 most critical areas of development. If you talk about development today, you talk about Human Development Index. These 3 are life expectancy, which is health, education, and per capita, which is pulling people out of poverty. If you put what the Nigerian budget for these 3 items, so subsidy is more. So what are you doing? How can you be throwing your people into poverty and be paying subsidy?
So given the current economic situation, and we'll move into a larger conversation now, the Russia-Ukraine crisis has put pressure on all economies and governments worldwide. Food prices are up, food inflation is there, rising fuel costs, and we are seeing governments bring about some form of subsidies to ease things for their citizens. We don't know how long Russia-Ukraine will last. We're still coming out of the COVID-19 crisis. Is there a plan? If you are removing it, and as you said, replacing it with something, is there a place Nigerians can go to see an active plan you would put in place to deal with subsidy?
Russia-Ukraine war is actually telling Nigeria how unproductive we are. How can we be talking about, I'm telling you that we have vast land where we should actually be cultivating and feeding the world. What is the size of Ukraine? How can Nigeria be talking about Ukraine? Have you flown around Nigeria? I've gone around this country. This is the only country on the air and land, and you see vast land, all cultivated, and people are begging for food. It's not seen anywhere in the world. Go and check Vietnam. They used to be the highest importer of rice in Southeast Asia. And they made a point that in 5 years, that will change. Today, they are net exporter of rice. These things are not rocket science. These things are what government can focus and say, well, listen, we now know we have to be tackle issue of agriculture. We now know we have to tackle issue of manufacturing. These things are not difficult things to do.
Now, if you emerge president of Nigeria, you have so many ideas that you want to implement, and you need the National Assembly to pass legislation to push through your policies. Your party, the Labour Party, I don't have a crystal ball in front of me, but I could confidently say will not have a majority in the National Assembly. So how do you intend to pass a legislation without...
It's not the first time I'm experiencing that. I was governor of Anambra State without one House member from my party. 30 members were from another party. 30 House members. I didn't say this one, Labour, maybe I'll even get one. In this one, I didn't have one. No senator, no local government. Everybody was from another party.
But Nigeria is a bigger scale. Yeah.
If you put the right things on the table, people will follow you.
Regardless of party affiliation.
Forget it. Once they can see that you're doing the right thing, they will follow you.
But sometimes some of those right things might be financial inducement.
No. It doesn't require. Forget about, you're not going into corruption. No. If you're not stealing, nobody will take it. And I can assure you, you can go to Anambra and verify. You have to take first before other people will add their own.
So I like the point. I like the fact that you've brought up this issue of stealing and inducement. So let's talk about corruption. Do you think Nigeria is winning the fight against corruption? There are a number of loopholes.
No, there's
sinks, drains.
There's no loophole. Fighting corruption is easy. I say it repeatedly in all my interviews. If you, the principal person, is not stealing, your wife and children are not stealing, those around you are not stealing, you reduce it by 70%.
But your wife and children are not in positions of authority.
No, I'm just telling you, don't leave anything. They will be, somehow. I know how these things work. If they are not stealing, you reduce it by 70%. I have to add my own as governor. Before commissioner will add his own. Before parsec will add his own. And it goes on and on. Before it comes back for you to sign. And I've said it repeatedly. Go to Anambra State, where I was governor for 8 years, and show me one contractor, one supplier, who will say he sat down with Peter Obi as governor to discuss what he will give Peter Obi or how to increase the price to accommodate Peter Obi. Go to Anambra State and show me where their money is missing, and they can trace it. Like they normally say, oh, this money entered this certain account. I was governor for 8 years.
Now, there was a time where Nigeria was part of the top 20, 25 economies in the world, and Africa was the center of our foreign policy in the post-independence era. If you emerge president of Nigeria, what would be your focus what would be your foreign policy thrust?
Well, it remains what you said before. Africa will be our focus. But first, we have to come home, strengthen our policies, our socio-economic engagement to make, create a robust economy to be able, because unless you have an internal, a domestic, robust, strong economy, you can have a strong foreign policy. You need that to be able to be. Africa remains our focus. We want to show our leadership in Africa, but we want to be able to show that by example. So when we have a robust, functional economy, we want to secure the country. So we regard as security architecture, let our country be secured, working with our other neighboring countries to make sure the security within the, say, West Africa region, Sub-Saharan Africa, all these things, and then engage and ensure that in Africa, we will engage based on trade, now that we have after NEPAD, peer review mechanism, all these things. But Africa remains our focus.
I'm happy you mentioned this, because if you look at Africa's dealings with the West and other areas, there's a Japan-Africa summit, there's a Russia-Africa summit, there's a China-Africa summit, France, Turkey, name it. But they hardly come to Africa to negotiate.
Because the leader, Nigeria, has not done his job very well.
You believe Nigeria should be the leader of Africa?
Yes, yes. But for you to be a big brother, you need to put your house in order. Our house is not in order. You don't just say, I'm a big brother, when you're even probably being fed by your junior brothers and sisters. The big brother has to show a big brother by coming out and being held and doing the right things, taking the right decisions, and then constructively engage the other people.
Let's talk about Nigeria's civil service. If you ask maybe the average Nigerian and they describe it bloated, ineffective, out of date, not technologically advanced, and a lot of candidates tend to steer away from the issue of the civil service. How would you address the issues there?
I tend to disagree. You can turn them around.
How?
It's very easy. People tell me, let me give you an example. Why I always say, people say, I always go back to Anambra State. When we came in and we say, listen, education, we were number 26 and 27 thereabouts in Wayeka Neko. And I said, we're going to change it. We want to be among the best 5. Everybody said to me, oh, you cannot achieve it. Not with this civil service, not with these teachers, not with this, not with that. I said, okay. We became number 1 using the same teachers, using the same civil service. The leader must show leadership. The leader must live with example. When everybody sees the direction, when you have a clear destination, you're driving everybody through, and you can bring people to have faith. They trust you, so they have faith that you're taking in that direction, and they see you consistent or moving in that direction. They'll follow you.
Can that format be applied on the federal level?
Everywhere.
You have appointments that you have to make across board.
Everywhere it can be applied.
Putting into consideration federal character,
exactly, the
ethnic,
politics of it.
religious sentiments.
When I moved from being a private businessman, being chairman of corporations like banks, into politics, everybody said, oh, politics is different. There was nothing different in it. Every section of Nigeria wants to have uninterrupted electricity. Don't they? Every part of Nigeria wants to see good roads. Every part of Nigeria wants food to come down. Is there anywhere you buy bread cheaper? So why won't you? If you do the right things, everybody will follow you. It's simple.
So you say everybody will follow you, but when you talk to Nigerians, when you talk to political analysts, a lot of people are saying that a level of disaffection, the level of divisiveness that we're seeing right now is a dangerous thread.
Because you have not come to bring people together I was discussing with a group of people yesterday. He said to me, he said something. I said, let me tell you, I will engage every constructive. Sit down and discuss with every group, every section. We will dialogue with them. We'll bring everybody together in love. There's so many things you can solve with dialoguing, by discussing everything. Everything mustn't be, oh, I'm going to do this. I'll tour every state of Nigeria. As governor, I visited my state. I can drive from Oka to every local government in less than an hour. Yet I did a tour of every local government at least once every 3 months. And I slept in every local government. I moved from here and go, I'm going to IML. And they said, where are you going to sleep? I said, there's nobody in IML that can give me a house where I can sleep.
How would you respond to those who say you are idealistic? Because the idea is, well, not the idea. The sentiment is that when you enter the position, that's when you realize just really how difficult and challenging it is. And you're saying you can dialogue and we can bring everybody to the table and move forward with unity. Some would call you idealistic.
If you know Anambra State very well, you know how chaotic, disorganized it was before I got there. For 8 years, people were wondering what is happening here. If the leader is determined, you can do a lot. And people say Anambra is not. How do you measure? How do you measure and hire people? You take their track records. I wasn't a banker. I've never worked in a bank. But I chaired a bank. I was a trader in the market. And an MD of a bank said to me, Peter, every time I come to market you, what you say is wonderful. Can you come and be a director? And after being director for 2 years, they made me, everybody in the board said, this man should be our chairman. And I took the smallest bank in Nigeria to become a 25 billion bank.
So do you think you're going to replicate this politically? Because you talk about track record.
No.
Wait.
From that, I went to do politics. Never voted. Then a state that was chaotic, a state was used for bad example. I started MDG, Millennium Development Goals. I became, MDG was signed by Nigeria and started in year 2000 with signature. Anambra State started implementation of it in 2008. By 2015, we were number one.
When we talk track record, the track record is, and the odds are in the favor of the PDP and the APC. Labour Party is a party that has struggled to gain national recognition. How do you address that? Is track record enough for you to believe that Nigerian electorate and the voters will head in your direction?
The simple thing is for Nigerians to ask themselves, we've been in this business for 24 years. Are we on the right road? If you have been in a situation for 24 years, people have been promising and delivering. Look at the two parties. What have they delivered? What have happened? In 24 years, Nigeria could not increase its power generation from 4,000 to 5,000 or 6,000. You ask yourself a question. Are we going to continue with this? So are you going to continue on the wrong road? Are you going to then turn and say, listen, we have to do the right thing?
But how do you get your message across to the corners and crevices of this big federation called Nigeria?
Through you, because what I'm doing is going to affect all of you here. My message is for the people to understand.
Now, young Nigerians, I want to bring in young Nigerians, this young generation, they have very little patience. A lot of them have moved to the diaspora. There's a brain drain going on. They have no patience and they're so disaffected in Nigeria and they're not happy. I remember I was at a forum with from President Paul Kagame of Rwanda, and the anchor asked him, how did Rwanda do it? They went from, almost ground bottom. He said, his response was this. He said, we went so low, there was no space to go. We couldn't go any lower, that the only option was up. Are we at that level yet? And what's your message to young Nigerians?
We're below that level. Nigerians have patience. You said they don't have. They have. Otherwise, they won't be living here. They won't. No, they have. They have long patience. What Nigerians are looking for is not a magician.
Or a messiah.
What they want is somebody they can trust. Like I keep saying, we're not going to achieve everything overnight. I will not achieve everything overnight. What I'm doing, I'm not in politics where I'm saying I want to be president. I'm at forefront of a movement to take back Nigeria and put it in a path of the right direction. So we'll all agree this is what we want to do. And we ensure that whoever we elected is doing that. So you can tell us this vehicle is moving from, say, Abuja to Kaduna.
There's a destination.
So we know we're in it. It might be moving slowly, but we're going to Kaduna. Not that we get up in the morning, we don't know where we're going. So every road we take will take us to our destinations that we can decide to go to Kogi. When we are supposed to be going to Kaduna. If we decide and adopt that, for example, if in 2000, when we were signatory to Millennium Development Goals, that we streamlined our policies, our planning, budgeting, across the 3 tiers of government, following the Millennium Development Goals agenda, by 2015, Nigeria would have halved its poverty level. Because it's clear. China did it. And within 15 years, put 439 million people out of poverty. India did the same. Put 276 million people out of poverty. Vietnam put 50. But Nigeria threw more people into poverty because there was no clear, visible destination everybody was driving to.
So is there hope?
So you have to first have somebody they can trust. They have faith in it, and there's hope. Now hope is that we are going in the right direction. So they're not going to look, I'm not promising to change everything overnight. But I'm promising to put 100% effort. So I can say there's no reason why Nigeria will not, in 5 years, be able to move from power generation of 4,000, when I talk generation distribution, transmission and distribution,
Yes.
4,000 to about 20,000. Because you can't create revenue when 100 million people are living in poverty. But where are you going to tax? Are you going to tax people in my village who are looking for money to eat? The more you put people out of poverty, but that's by the way, with 30 million, 30% of your GDP in debt, if I'm in government and you plug all the holes, which I can tell you, there's a lot of holes. I plugged it at a lower level. Otherwise, there's no way Anambra I would have left office with 75
Corruption
billion.
fights back. They say you're stopping them from where they eat.
I said you can stop it. If you are not still...
But you're not going to be in 36 states at the same time.
No.
And you can't monitor all your ministries.
Once you start, you are the one who is going to approve it. My brother, let nobody tell you you're not going to be everywhere. The president, they bring things to Federal Executive Council.
Well, people are already used to a system, a type of way.
You can't stop it.
Okay.
You can drag everybody. They're not crying, complaining and everything. I've seen it before.
So I want us to go back to education, please, because ASU is on strike. As they have been on strike for about 6 months, but the issues with ASU they predate this administration. They even predate the administration before. They are long-standing foundational issues. So when it comes to the issues of young Nigerians, there's unemployment. We have entered the fourth industrial revolution, but we're not seeing Nigeria, even a lot of the continents, being able to take active advantage of that. How do we address the ASU issue?
Let me tell you, it's not an ASU issue. You talk about education issue. Nigeria has 15 million out-of-school children. So you're going to deal with issue of education holistically, starting from the foundation. The most important education is the basic education. The most important is universal basic education, which is primary and secondary, which must be made compulsory and funded aggressively. Beyond that is your tertiary institution, which you need a combination of sitting down with ASU and finding what is happening in other countries of the world. Look at what's a combination of what is happening all over the world to fund them appropriately. The agreement they are quarreling with is not too much for government to pay, consider the amount of money.
So it's the problem of education throwing money at it, because you said funding aggressively for the primary level.
You know, I told you I took education from 26 to number 1. I know what it is. When I mean funding aggressively, I mean funding aggressively. Aggressively is not just funding. You need to have the right management. You need to have the right people. Government is involving themselves into too much in what they should not involve themselves. So when you do that, when you do what I said at the primary level, on the tertiary level, where we even have a major crisis, globally, the global intake of tertiary institution, global intake, is at 8%. In the Western world, it's over 50%. In Nigeria, it's 9%. So you're not even off the quarter of the global average. So you need to be more aggressive. It will shock you that the entire universities in Nigeria, their population is about 2 million. One university in Bangladesh, in Pakistan, and all this have a population of 1.5 million. So there's so many things you can do today to make it work. It's a combination. But they're closed for 5 months without what I call meaningful engagement is unacceptable.
So elections tend to be referendums of how people are living under an administration or living under a political party if they're continuing as well. On election day, February 2023, as it may be, just months down the line, what are the issues that you think are going to bring out Nigerians to the polling units? We've seen INEC say that they've seen a number. It's actually young Nigerians who are the highest percentage of newly registered voters.
When it comes to a lot of factors, security, economy, Nigeria has an economic problem. If you look at it as security, but or politics, we have an economic problem. I said it before, when the economy is up and running and you pull more people out of poverty, you reduce the criminality. I've been to a few prisons, and I wanted to know why people do crime. Even kidnappers, it will shock you. So why did you do this? They have no job. So how much were you paid in the last operation? 30,000 naira. So if that guy earns 50,000 naira, he will not go to crime. Your unemployment is 35%. Am I right from MBS? Add underemployment. Because so many people today, what they earn can't even feed them. A guy who earns 30,000 naira is believed to be employed. Am I right? Some are even paid below that. But let me use that minimum of 30,000. And he has a family of 4, a wife and 2 kids.
And dependent family members.
No, don't go there. Just this basic one. And they buy one bread every day at 1,000. Just bread. No water, no sugar, no nothing, just bread. So 1,000 every day, 4 of them just eat bread. No nothing. They won't do any other thing, just eat bread. That's the salary can't even buy bread.
A take home that can't take you home.
No, I'm not even saying any other. I said they eat bread. They don't go anywhere. They don't go out. They don't do anything. They don't drink water. They don't drink tea, just bread. The bread is now 1,000 plus. So you have huge underemployment. So technically, you add another 20 to 25 into your underemployment. You're supposed to have a total, being a 200 million population, the average working population should be 60%, which is 120 million. Today, those who are meaningfully employed in Nigeria is about 46 million. So you have 74 million people who are not employed. You have 40 to 50% of them youths in their productive age. Nigeria have one of the most robust, talented youths. You see, these people think that young. That's what happened in India. You turn them, you lead them, you position them, they change the world.
So finally, as we wrap things up now, you have gotten some kind of groundswell, a momentum, a movement that many people have called the Obidient movement. Very popular on social media, but people really want to know, do you think you can translate that popularity, turning into a dark horse in this race, and pull out a surprising win?
Where are you from?
I'm from Oyo State.
Can we go to Ibadan? So that you know whether this is social media or real.
Let's go.
I'll go to everyone. Which state are you?
Ondo State.
Thank you. Let's go to Ondo. And you will see whether it is social media. All those people that see me at the airport, stop me, go to church and shout, they are not in social media. So it's what they want you to sell, because they don't want us to change. They want us to continue on this wrong place road we are. And they talk about lots of things. What I say is, this is time to scrutinize those who are offering themselves. When people were contesting election in America, you see their aunties and uncles come out and say, yes, this person can be president or cannot be. That's where we are now. We need to see the character of this man. He has said he lives in Onitsha. Who in Onitsha knows him? And if you do it, you find out that you get so many people who tell you, this man is useless. Not everybody will tell you I'm good. They'll tell you that he's useless. I had somebody in TV yesterday who said, don't vote Peter Obi. There's no way you can vote Peter Obi. The man is wicked. The man doesn't, if you tell him, he doesn't give anybody 1 naira, doesn't give anybody this, doesn't, but no, because he's a thief. Yeah, I've seen even church people and everything say, oh, the man doesn't give anybody anything. I've been in positions where I go around, come to Abuja, people say people are not happy with you. I say, what? In my out as governor, I never promised anybody happiness. I promised to fix school. Are the schools working? Yes. So those who want to be happy can go and to the entertainment, people, pay people in entertainment who make people happy. I'm not happy myself. So we want to fix it. And I assure you, we can start with the youth. All I'm telling the youth, come, let's take back our country. Do the right things. I'm not against borrowing, but we must have a law that says borrowing is strictly for investment. So I want to see that borrowing go into power. Because for every 1,000 of electricity I generate, there's a possibility we can add 1% or thereabout to our GDP. So if I borrow, say, $20 billion, to increase the power generation distribution to 20,000 megawatts. The additional 15,000 can increase our manufacturing from present about 7% to 12%. That alone can pull 5 million people out of poverty. That's what the country should be. That's where we should be going. Not wasting everybody's time and saying, okay, you come and give you this, I give you that. No, I'm not in that business. Thank you.
That concludes our interview with the former executive governor of Anambra State, Mr. Peter Obi, and the presidential candidate of the Labour Party. That's how much we can take on today's edition of NC Exclusive. I am Gbenga Aborowa.
And I'm Tolulope Adeleru Balogun. Thank you so much for joining us here on News Central. And remember to stay with us because we put Africa first.